She steps into her marriage with Duke Luke Stattern under a heavy cloud of fear. The Duke has been groomed as the successor since childhood, and his vast fiefdom and intimidating wealth have fed a troubling rumor for years. He is a beast without blood or tears. Today, she becomes the bride of that rumored beast. Inside the Duke's grand mansion, she sits quietly while anxiety coils tightly inside her. She struggles to understand why such a powerful man would choose a girl like her, the daughter of a simple baron. Her mind drifts to the memory of her brother arguing with their father, insisting that he could not let his only sister be handed over so easily. But their father had dismissed the concern, claiming that a woman her age should already have a fiancé. If the proposal had come from someone ordinary, she might have managed to reject it. However, she lacks the courage to oppose a man known for cruelty. The Duke carries a reputation for eliminating anyone in his way, and she cannot grasp why he would pick someone he has never even met. Even the brief moment when they first appeared together was too much for her. She had been so nervous that she avoided looking him in the eye. Now she worries that if she loses control and faints on their wedding night, he might take it as an insult. She tries to prepare herself for what she might say when he enters the room, but her thoughts crumble as soon as the door opens. Fear washes over her as she finds herself trapped inside a dark room with the husband she married only hours ago. She keeps her eyes shut while he approaches, knowing she cannot run because she accepted his proposal. When she finally opens them, the darkness hides his face and her imagination races. She studies the outline of his large frame, realizing he is far taller than she expected, towering well over 2 meters with a heavy mustache and thick beard. Her trembling only grows and hiccups break through as tears slip down her cheeks. To her, the rumors suddenly begin to feel true. He speaks, and at that moment a bottle glides across the room as if answering his command. Confused, she tries to understand what he said. He directs her attention behind her, and when she turns, he effortlessly catches the moving bottle. His eyes sweep over her with a closer look before he suddenly pulls her into his arms. Her startled cry echoes into the hallway, catching the attention of the servants. Jade Allen, the head servant, grows concerned and decides to investigate. He knocks before cautiously peeking inside, surprised by the sight before him. Stepping in fully, he questions whether the Duke has truly caused his bride to faint on their very first night. The Duke answers quickly, insisting she did not collapse because of him, reminding Jade that they had actually met outside before this moment. He explains everything that happened, and Jade finds the situation expected. After all, Nadia married a man whose name alone inspires fear, and she allowed her thoughts to overwhelm her. Hearing that, the Duke becomes frustrated, raising his voice as he insists he never meant to frighten her. He recalls her trembling reactions and inwardly wonders if he truly appears that terrifying. Duke Luke Stattern enters life with a naturally kind heart, but tragedy shapes him early. As a child, he tries desperately to save the Duchess from rebels, yet the attempt leaves him completely alone. The people pity him and quietly whisper that the Stattern line may have no future. His grandfather, aware that Luke is the last remaining successor, gives him a harsh warning. If anything happens to him, their family ends. With that, the old man chooses to shape him into a beast rather than a dog, building a man feared across the empire. Back in the present, Jade Allen seeks permission to speak freely. Luke grants it, and Jade reveals an uncomfortable truth. The Duke truly looks like a bear. Luke's surprise shows immediately, but Jade reminds him that honesty was requested. He adds that, from Nadia's terrified perspective, Luke might appear more like a beast than anything else. Luke accepts the truth reluctantly, though he insists that sincerity does not require such exaggeration. He does not care how the world views him, yet he refuses to let his wife see him as a monster. This admission surprises Jade, who has never seen the Duke so unsettled. Determined to help, Jade asks a series of questions. He begins by checking what the Duke knows about the Duchess. Silence fills the room. Jade is stunned to discover that Luke proposed without knowing anything beyond her name. He even asks to confirm that Luke did not kidnap her. Luke explains that his time in the capital is always limited. He cannot stay long. Jade reminds him that certain responsibilities still require proper attention, especially regarding a partner's emotions. He wonders how the Duke plans to handle a situation where Nadia faints each time she sees him. To guide him, Jade suggests simple steps, inviting her to dinner, grooming his heavy beard and mustache, offering her thoughtful gifts, and engaging her in friendly conversations. Luke hesitates but decides to trust Jade's judgment this time. Regret settles in as he thinks of his earlier actions, especially the fact that Leonard told him everything depended on the ring. Looking back, he realizes how foolish it was to rely on Leonard's advice. 3 months earlier, in the capital city of La Monstrade, Luke's life had briefly taken a lighter tone. One morning, Leonard, Crown Prince of the Empire, questions Luke's exhausted appearance and assumes it is due to last night's drinking. Leonard finds it odd because they had shared the same wine. Luke calls him a monster, which the prince finds unfair since he claims he only drank a little. Leonard studies him and then comments that Luke now resembles a beast. Luke is shocked, but Leonard elaborates that he used to look cute when they were younger and still living in the capital. After returning to his fiefdom, he transformed into something unrecognizable. Luke ignores the remark and explains that he must return home. He is too busy to stay. Leonard pushes further, asking if Luke only visits the capital because of him. Luke tries to remind him that he already attended a banquet and wonders what more the prince wants. Leonard begs him to return for his upcoming birthday banquet since Luke is the only friend he has. Luke almost tells him to invite someone else, but he cannot say such a thing to the Crown Prince. Although he has never offered personal loyalty, his position as Duke of the Empire demands service, and Leonard uses that bond to tease him constantly. Luke insists he does not wish to stay longer in the capital. Leonard challenges him, pointing out that even a wealthy fiefdom might lack certain things. Luke replies bluntly that he has no interest. Leonard then shifts the topic to marriage, questioning whether Luke avoids it because of his parents. Luke states that the Staten Duchy has always followed the Empire's commands, even without pledging exaggerated loyalty. He promises to respond to the prince's call anytime and assures him that Staten will never become a threat. Luke knows he should not speak this way, recognizing that Leonard's words are meant playfully. The capital remains dazzling, decorated like a flower petal with endless banquets each night. Yet he cannot understand why the people enjoy such extravagance while he feels nothing but discomfort. In the present, Duke Luke reflects on that moment in the capital and realizes just how foolish he must have appeared. He had never enjoyed staying in such a glamorous place, and lingering there only made him restless. Right after his conversation with the Crown Prince, he chooses to rest by taking a quiet walk to clear his dizzy head. As he wanders through the capital, a lady catches sight of him from a distance and immediately screams for help, convinced that a bear is roaming the streets. Luke ignores the outcry completely. He lowers himself to the ground and lies there without concern for how it looks. If the guards attempt to arrest him, he plans to simply reveal his identity. All he wants in that moment is a bit of calm, because the dizziness refuses to fade. As he closes his eyes, he senses footsteps approaching. When he opens them again, he is startled to see a young woman standing close by. Instead of running away like the others, she moves toward him and squats beside him with a concerned expression. She tells him she has been observing him for a while, ever since he stretched himself out on the ground. She studies him carefully and asks whether he is feeling unwell and if he needs any help at all. The sun presses gently on Luke's face, prompting him to sit up. The young lady watches him carefully and asks what she should do, insisting that he looks terribly sick. Her sister, more cautious, urges her not to get involved since they know nothing about the man lying on the ground, but the compassionate girl argues that he clearly needs help. Luke wishes both of them would walk away. He cannot understand why he is meeting someone like her in such an individualistic city, a place where people usually avoid even the slightest inconvenience. Yet she refuses to leave him. She instead suggests that her sister fetch a doctor while she stays by his side. As the moment stretches, more people gather around to watch, and Luke imagines himself being paraded as a patient. He even pictures news spreading about the Duke collapsing in the middle of a park, with critics calling it a strange hangover disease and cursing the state and duchy for it. The thought pushes him to pull himself together immediately. When he tries to rise, the girl reaches toward him, but he declines her help and insists that he is fine. She studies him with concern and asks why he looked so unwell earlier. Luke responds simply that he felt dizzy. When he finally looks at her properly, he notices how sincere she seems. She gently scolds him for lying on the street and hands him a handkerchief. Their fingers brush and the unexpected warmth startles him. He takes the handkerchief quickly and walks away, almost fleeing. She calls after him and tries to approach again, but Luke's instinct drives him to run. When he finally reaches a quiet area, he replays the entire encounter. She had called him Mr., a word no one has ever used for him. The softness of her voice lingers in his ears, and he stares at the handkerchief, guessing it must be her favorite. He wonders how a girl so gentle could give something precious to a stranger. Her kindness feels out of place in the capital, a city filled with people like Leonard, who think only of themselves, their comfort, and their rights. This girl is different, genuinely pure. He feels his heart racing just thinking about her. He soon notices her name stitched on the corner of the handkerchief. Knowing this, he decides that he wants to see her again. If she visits the park regularly, then meeting her again becomes his only goal. Later that evening, he arrives at Leonard's residence. The crown prince is surprised to see him, especially since Luke had been determined to return to his duchy only 3 days earlier. Luke admits that he came because he needs advice, and he believes the prince is the only person he can consult. He also mentions that his own experience with women is non-existent since he has trained with soldiers from a young age and lived a sheltered, disciplined life. Leonard listens and questions him seriously about this mysterious woman. Luke explains that he knows her name and that she is the same girl who mistook him for a beggar. As he recalls looking into her eyes, the prince bursts into laughter, which only frustrates him. Still, Luke insists on receiving guidance on how to meet her again. The prince finally helps, asking first whether Luke only wants to see her once more or if he hopes for a real relationship. Luke chooses the second option, and the prince gives straightforward advice: propose to her. Luke is shocked, but Leonard argues that a man cannot admire a woman and refuse to take responsibility for his feelings. If she accepts the proposal, Luke will have the chance to get closer to her. If she rejects him because her heart belongs to someone else, at least she will know he exists. Leonard reminds him that he described her as an angel, so her heart must be beautiful as well. Luke hesitates but listens. The prince asks whether he intends to admire her from afar forever or if he will take a chance. 3 months later, back at the Stadtern mansion, Luke regrets following Leonard's advice so quickly. He had been thrilled at the chance to marry her, but now he questions what it all means if she does not feel the same. As he walks down the hallway, he asks Anna Breuer about Nadia's condition. Anna, once his nanny, suggests that he see for himself. She explains that Nadia's fever has worsened and she has not woken up since that day. The Duke enters the room quietly and sees the doctor examining Nadia. He asks about her condition, and the doctor explains that they will need to wait until the next day before knowing how well she will recover because her state is far from stable. The doctor also asks to confirm that the Duchess came from the capital, then mentions that the long journey by carriage may have exhausted her more than expected. The Duke moves closer to Nadia and gently takes her hand. The guilt settles in his chest immediately. He believes everything is his fault. She always grows tense whenever he is near, and now she lies here because she became overwhelmed in his presence. Feeling responsible, he apologizes softly in his heart and removes her ring with great care. He thinks back to the moment she treated him kindly in the capital and concludes that if she had never shown him that kindness, none of this would have happened. Morning eventually arrives, and Nadia slowly opens her eyes. She becomes aware that someone has been tending to her, and she assumes it might be her sister Iluya or her brother Anderson, but as her vision clears, she is stunned to discover that it is the Beast himself. Startled, she screams and tumbles off the bed. Her maids, Cindy and Wendy, rush to her and ask why she screams so loudly. Embarrassed, she tells them she simply fell because of a bad dream. When her stomach growls, they immediately announce they will prepare her meal. Left alone, she asks them to leave the room as she tries to process her new life. She wonders whether this is what it truly means to be a duchess. Ever since the disastrous wedding night, she has been receiving endless kindness. A whole month has passed, filled with delicious meals, attentive care, and generous treatment. Yet the comfort only makes her feel trapped, as if she has been placed inside a beautiful cage. Her wedding ring feels heavier each time she looks at it, reminding her of the belief that her husband must surely hate her now. She thinks he must be avoiding her constantly because she fainted right in front of him. Her maid eventually notices her troubled expression and asks if something is bothering her. Nadia hesitates, then quietly wonders where the Duke is. Her maid explains that he is in his office and asks if she wishes to visit him. Nadia declines, too nervous to face him, though curiosity lingers in her chest. She later hears his distant voice making sure she's feeling well. She does not want to disturb him, but she also fears making another mistake. She imagines him writing a stern letter to her parents, demanding an apology or even requesting a divorce. That night, she wanders through the library disguised in simple clothes. Jade recognizes her instantly by her hair and approaches her carefully. He asks what she is doing there and where her maids have gone. She explains that she wants to write a letter to her friend, but has no idea where to find writing paper. Jade quietly thinks about how dangerous it is for her to roam around at such an hour and considers escorting her back. But he remembers the Duke's instruction to listen to everything she wants, so he offers to accompany her in finding the paper, and she accepts. As they walk, Jade reflects again and gently asks whether there is a particular reason she does not want to be around her maids. She wonders what he means, and he assures her that he has no bad intentions. He only asks because she seems troubled, and because the Duke specifically asked him to take good care of her. She is surprised to hear that, and Jade continues, explaining that the Duke stayed by her side constantly while she was sick. He remembers the moment he had to stop the Duke from entering her room again because she was about to wake up. The Duke had insisted on keeping his distance, believing she remained uncomfortable around him. Nadia stands frozen for a moment. She cannot believe the Duke does not hate her. She had assumed his absence for an entire month meant he was furious, but now it seems he kept his distance only to avoid frightening her. She begins to realize that he may be much kinder than she ever imagined, a contrast to his intimidating appearance. Jade then asks why she has not gone to see the Duke. He adds that the Duke mentioned the arrival of a new ring. He explains that the Duke ordered it immediately after discovering her allergy. He even had it specially crafted just for her. Nadia is stunned. She thinks about how deeply she misunderstood him. She looks at the letter she is writing and feels ashamed. She had written to her father, asking him to help her run away from the duchy. She wonders how she could have been so unaware of everything the Duke has been doing behind the scenes. She gets up abruptly and tells Jade that she wants to see the Duke right away. In the Duke's room, he sits alone and thinks about Jade's words from earlier. He remembers how Jade said that bumping into someone at the right moment can be important, but he feels it will be foolish if he tries it without thinking. To him, information is more important than anything else. Even on the battlefield, he believes that winning or losing depends on having the right information, so now, instead of rushing, he wants to gather enough details and choose the right way to meet Nadia again. Still, he feels frustrated because this situation seems more difficult than facing enemies in war. Nearby, Anna watches him and warns him to be careful with his fists. She knows he is strong, and the way he is clenching his hands makes her worry that he might break something. She even wonders if he plans to destroy the mansion and start building a new one. He tells her that he is dealing with something serious and asks again when the barber Jade mentioned will arrive. Anna doesn't think Jade actually called the barber, and she asks if he has not been impatient these days. He admits it, but says that if he still doesn't have a barber by tomorrow, he will shave by himself. Anna sees a restless energy inside him, something like a wild beast waiting to break free, but she stays calm and decides to go ask Jade herself. When she leaves, the Duke sits quietly and thinks about how easily he gets nervous now. It has already been a full month since he left Nadia alone. He tells himself that shaving his beard will not make her scared of him, yet he still fears the idea of facing her and seeing her look frightened or overwhelmed in front of him. A knock on the door breaks his thoughts. Jade stands outside. The Duke pulls the door open too quickly and demands to know where Jade has been. He asks about the barber again and raises his voice, asking how long he must wait. Standing beside Jade is Nadia. She gently calls the Duke and reminds him that she is his wife. Her presence softens the air. She soon follows him inside his room. When she enters, she notices the room looks very different from hers. It feels simple, almost too simple, but she doesn't complain. He tells her he doesn't have a good chair for guests, but they can sit and talk all the same. She agrees quietly, though she feels uncomfortable and doesn't know how to start a conversation with him. Her heart beats fast as she tries to figure out the right words. He asks if she wants a drink. He warns that it might be too strong for her, but it is the only thing he has. She accepts with thanks. After she takes a sip, he notices her startled reaction and asks if he should call someone or get water for her. She tells him she is fine, explaining that the drink only surprised her, and since it helps her relax, she finishes all of it. Then she tells him softly that she came because she wants to talk to him. She explains that she couldn't visit him earlier and apologizes for her rude behavior that day. He does not think she needs to say sorry, but she continues anyway, reminding him that she fainted on their first night together. She wonders if he's angry about that. She explains that she fainted because she was exhausted from greeting many guests and preparing for everything, not because she feared him. She apologizes again with a heavy heart. He turns away, saying he isn't angry, but she watches him closely and doubts his words. She encourages him to be honest. She says he can tell her if he hates her, or if he doesn't want to look at her face, but he assures her that he does not hate her. She asks again, this time with more emotion, wanting to know if he regrets choosing her as his bride. She thinks about how everyone must be talking behind their backs, wondering why he married someone like her who has nothing, and assuming he chose her only because he had no other option. But he tells her that he chose her because he truly wanted her. Her voice grows shaky as she asks why he left her alone for so long if he is really her husband. She wants to know why he doesn't hate her. He finally admits that he thought she was afraid of him, so he stayed away to give her time to calm down. She tells him she does not want a divorce, and he confesses that even though he imagines the word divorce crossing his mind sometimes, he has never really thought about doing it. As tears gather on her face, he wipes them gently. She feels his warm hands and remembers the dream she had about him caring for her. She wonders if it wasn't a dream after all, so she asks if he has ever come into her room before. He tells her he went in when she was very sick because he thought she shouldn't be alone. He apologizes for not asking her permission. Hearing this, she realizes that he really did take care of her all night and that he cares for her deeply. When he says her name, she looks surprised. He tells her to call him Luke, reminding her again that they are a couple now. Then he suggests that she return to her room because it is already late, but she holds him gently and asks why they shouldn't share a room if they are truly a couple. Luke accepts her request and tells her to hold on, his voice soft but careful. He brings up her ring, and Nadia creases her brows, wondering if he's talking about it because their marriage might be over already. But he shakes his head gently and explains that he bought a new one that fits her perfectly because the previous one didn't. Carefully, he slides it onto her finger, and she feels a small shiver of surprise mixed with warmth. At that moment, she thinks of Jade's words. The Duke truly cares about her, and finally, all her doubts fade. She realizes he isn't someone who will hurt her, and a strange, blissful dizziness washes over her. Her body feels light, relaxed, almost as if she could float. Luke watches her carefully, asking if she's okay. She nods, her cheeks flushed, and decides to lie down for a little while. He freezes for a heartbeat, astonished that she wants to lie on his bed. His mind races. Should he just say goodnight and leave or lie down beside her? The thought makes his chest tighten, but he stays quiet, letting her comfort take the lead. Soon she looks at him with wide, innocent eyes and asks if he's not tired, inviting him to sleep next to her. He hesitates, reminding her that married couples don't need to share the same bed if they don't want to. She tilts her head, explaining that her parents always shared a bed and that being alone now feels awkward, almost frustrating. He questions her, half teasing, half curious about what couples usually do when they sleep together. She laughs nervously, imagining couples just hugging each other. Noticing his pale skin, she gently takes his hand, her touch light, and comments that he seems tired, insisting he would feel better if he slept beside her. Luke's thoughts spiral. He has to stay patient, keep his wandering mind in check, and endure these overwhelming feelings for his innocent wife. Finally, they lie down together, her arms around him, her warmth grounding him. The next morning, Nadia wakes up expecting to find the bed empty, but she pauses, remembering that Luke had hugged her. His words still fresh in her mind as he had told her to call him by his name now that they are married. The thought makes her cheeks warm with embarrassment and happiness all at once. She recalls her childhood, her friends James and Anderson, and how she'd always been protected, her family overly cautious. Marriage is a new world for her, heavy with responsibility, yet she realizes the Duke understands her in a way no one else ever has. She remembers his voice, soft when he apologized, calming yet powerful. Soon her maids inform her that her breakfast is ready. She recalls sneaking out yesterday without them, and they check on her gently. She assures them that she feels refreshed after a good night's sleep. One maid, a little mischievous, whispers that she heard Nadia slept with the Duke, while the other expresses surprise. Nadia blushes faintly but explains that she simply hugged him while sleeping, feeling scared at first, but grateful for his comfort. Wendy probes further, but Cindy stops her, noting that Nadia seems well rested. They urge her to eat before the food grows cold. Nadia reflects on how kind they are, realizing she misjudged them before. She resolves to get closer to them, maybe even consider this place home if she can trust and befriend the people around her. She invites them for a cup of tea, smiling at the small warmth of connection. Meanwhile, at the entrance to the Duke's office, Jade is talking with the barber he brought. The man notices Jade's unusually good mood and asks why. Jade smiles and mentions good news, recalling gossip among the servants about the Duke and Duchess sharing a bed for the first time after a month. His heart swells with quiet happiness at how things have finally moved forward. Jade enters the Duke's office, congratulating him warmly. Luke notes that Jade arrived at the perfect time and requests him to follow to the training grounds. Jade's eyebrows rise in surprise, curious why the Duke wants to head there now. Jade remarks that today is indeed a great day and wonders aloud if last night wasn't an amazing first step in integrating with his wife. Suddenly Luke shouts, guilt and excitement lacing his voice. Nadia and her maids, in the middle of breakfast, freeze and look around, startled. Wendy whispers in confusion, wondering where the monster is howling. Later, Jade learns the whole story. He tries to calm the Duke down, noticing that he is tense and on edge. He seems ready to explode at any moment, but Jade quickly says there's some good news. Then, with a small grin, He reveals that he has found the best barber in town and brought him along. The Duke freezes for a moment in surprise and stares at the man standing behind Jade, who had fainted when he first saw him. Could this really be the barber? The Duke wonders how long the man has been in that state. Without warning, the Duke pulls out a knife and tells Jade to step aside. Jade, shocked, asks what he is trying to do, but the Duke simply tells him not to worry. Jade refuses to move and warns him to calm down no matter how angry he feels. The Duke ignores him, walking past Jade with a determined stride, thinking that they don't even need a barber. Nobody stands a chance against him anyway. Jade yells after him, frustrated, but there's nothing he can do. Meanwhile, in her room, Nadia's maid reminds her that it is bedtime. She asks if Nadia wants to stay up a little longer to finish her embroidery, but Nadia shakes her head. She had worked hard all day and wants to rest. Deep down, she worries the Duke won't come tonight either. Since the night she slept next to Luke, he hasn't returned to her room for a full week. The maids wish her good night, but Nadia cannot help wondering if she has become a burden to the Duke. She recalls that she had been very drunk that night, and perhaps something happened that she doesn't fully remember. But she is sure of one thing. The Duke had held her so warmly, and his words were sincere. Unable to stay alone, Nadia quietly sneaks out of her room. The maids notice and exchange worried glances. It is dangerous, they know, but they decide to watch her quietly, suspecting she might be going to see the Duke. In his office, Luke sits in thought, unsure whether he should continue hiding from Nadia. It has been a week, and though he thought they had grown closer last time, nothing seemed to have changed. Looking at himself in the mirror, he regrets not listening to Jade and cutting his beard himself. It has grown wild and rough, and he doesn't have the courage to face her like this. Soon, he hears a soft voice asking if he is inside. Adjusting himself quickly, he tells her to come in. When he sees Nadia, he instinctively uses a book to cover his beard. He can hardly believe she is here and wonders if he is dreaming. He asks why she came to his office tonight. Nadia apologizes for interrupting him while he is working, but she says there is no particular reason. She is simply bored. She admits she finds the Duke a little intimidating but also funny in a way, and wonders if he thinks she is acting childish. Then she explains that she loves embroidery, but has been embroidering all day. She even went for a walk. But still, time seems to drag, and she does not know what to do with herself. Luke listens quietly, feeling ashamed. He realizes he had not considered her loneliness or the fact that, although the duchy is beautiful, it is not like the capital and lacks cultural places to occupy her. She doesn't know anyone there, so she spends a lot of time alone. His heart aches for failing to consider her situation. Nadia asks if there is anything she can do as a duchess in the castle. She recalls her mother telling her to take responsibility for managing it, but she doubts if she is capable. Luke reassures her, saying the butler and head maid manage most things, but there are important decisions only she can make. He extends his hand and suggests that whenever something important arises, they make the choice together. He adds that her wishes are his wishes because she is his wife. Nadia thanks him, and he apologizes for not taking better care of her. She smiles and thanks him for listening. Finally, Nadia admits the real reason she came. She has been lonely and missed him so much. Luke stares at her closely, noticing how thin she used to be. Slowly, he removes the book from his face. Nadia is surprised to see him, and her eyes widen when she notices his nose is bleeding slightly. Luke assures her he is fine and sees the fear in her eyes. She asks how he got the scratches, and he explains that he had tried shaving his beard by himself and got hurt. He didn't want her to be frightened if she saw him like this. Nadia cannot believe he stayed in the office like that all this time, and she tells him he shouldn't have done it because he is her husband. She then smiles and says she is not afraid of him anymore. Luke is surprised and admits he will get a new barber next time, wanting to look more presentable for her. Nadia realizes he shaved by himself, and he explains that his beard is too rough to remove easily. She asks if he wouldn't let someone help him next time. Even though she isn't a professional, she playfully asks if he would allow her to trim it for him, showing how much her fear of him has melted into trust. Outside the Duke's office, Gyaranos, the leader of the Black Bear Knights, leans toward Anna with a frown. He asks her if she's noticed how strangely the Duke has been acting lately. Anna nods, agreeing that it's been more serious recently. The Duke has been spending entire days sparring and arguing with the Knights, pushing them harder than usual. Gyaranos mentions the rumors, the terrifying, almost monster-like roar that people say comes from the Duke. Anna shivers slightly, but Gyaranos laughs quietly, though unease lingers in the air. Meanwhile, Jade quickly informs them that no one should enter the Duke's office. He also mentions that the Duke asked him to collect anything anyone wants to give him, Soon the Duke steps out of his office, looking slightly flustered. He wonders aloud why it took so long and questions whether Jade would dare to defy his orders. The group outside sees him covered in shaving cream, making him look like a giant white bear. He demands the shaving tools, insisting that the cream disappears quickly and needs to be finished. Jade refuses, warning that he shouldn't handle sharp tools himself again. The Duke yells, asking if Jade thinks he's a 6-year-old child. He tells him to step aside or risk a fight. Jade stands firm, insisting that he doesn't want the Duke to hurt himself. The others watching the scene quietly find it both amusing and fascinating, sensing the tension mixed with absurdity. As the shouting continues, Nadia suddenly appears, calling out to the Duke. She asks if he's fighting with his assistant. The Duke quickly explains that he only grabbed Jade to prevent him from falling. Jade thanks him, and the Duke checks if he got hurt. Then, realizing Nadia is there, he spills the news. She had offered to help him shave. Nadia nods, admitting her skills aren't professional, but she has helped her father and brother shave before, and now she wants to help him. Jade, surprised but understanding, steps aside. Garanos mutters under his breath, joking that he expected the Duke would have her perform a sword dance rather than help with shaving. Anna adds that, as always, time will sort everything out. Jade, meanwhile, realizes that all his concerns about the Duke and Duchess's relationship were unnecessary. It's clear now that he shouldn't interfere between them again. Inside the office, Nadia carefully helps the Duke shave his beard. Her hands are gentle, and she finds herself concentrating, noticing how different this feels from helping her father or brother back home. Back then, it was just a playful, casual act, but now it feels so personal, so intimate. She observes the man who once seemed so big and intimidating, now small and vulnerable under her touch. She feels a strange warmth and decides to surrender completely to this quiet, private moment. Once she finishes, Nadia informs him she's done. Anna, who had been watching nearby, gasps softly. She comments that seeing the Duke's face like this is something she hasn't witnessed in 9 years, and notes that he looks remarkably like his father. Nadia takes a closer look, her eyes widening in surprise at how soft his features appear without the rough beard. Luke, grateful, thanks her, noting he wouldn't be able to achieve this himself. He notices, however, that she is a little tense. Stepping closer, he calls her his wife. Nadia, startled, falls back slightly, but reassures him she's fine. Her mind races. This doesn't feel like her usual husband anymore. It's like she's seeing him for the very first time. She becomes extra nervous. Luke apologizes, saying he didn't expect it would feel so strange, but she smiles, insisting it's not strange, just a little unfamiliar. Wanting to ease the tension, she leans forward and kisses him gently on the cheek. Luke calls her name in surprise, but she laughs softly, explaining that it isn't strange. It's actually wonderful. She then reassures him again that she's done helping with the shave. Luke calls Anna, asking if she saw that. Anna, puzzled, asks what he means. He wonders aloud if this is real, thinking it impossible that such a kind and beautiful woman could exist. Anna, observing quietly, questions what the proper behavior of a married couple is, especially since this is their first kiss. Luke explains that this is indeed the first time his wife has kissed him. Anna, shocked, asks if they haven't done anything more than a kiss before. He replies that he has no intention of harming his innocent wife, and that if Nadia doesn't want anything else, even a lifetime of kisses would be enough. Anna steps aside, shaking her head in quiet disbelief. Jade notices and asks about Luke, but Anna's expression reveals something is off. She tells him the issue lies elsewhere and urges him to gather their closest friends for an emergency meeting. The topic, she explains, is the Duke and his wife. Despite how quickly the marriage was arranged, she can't believe the Duke has gotten this far without truly understanding what marriage entails. She imagines him telling Nadia that they may never have an heir, worrying over how to introduce her naturally to the realities of married life. Meanwhile, in her room, Nadia sits quietly, overwhelmed by the fact that she kissed her husband first. For the first time, she feels the thrill and the tenderness of being close to him, and it makes her cheeks burn with warmth and happiness. She wonders if the Duke is avoiding her on purpose or if it's just her imagination. She frowns, thinking that perhaps there's a simple way to talk to him without it feeling awkward or forced. She wants their conversation to feel natural, something genuine that won't make either of them uncomfortable. With that in mind, she resolves to find the right moment to approach him and talk sincerely. Later, Nadia shares a meal with Viscount Million's daughter, Reina. Reina watches her with a teasing smile and asks if she isn't eating too much since Nadia already had dessert. She laughs lightly and comments that Nadia tends to eat without thinking sometimes, though she quickly adds that Nadia doesn't need to follow her advice if she doesn't want to. Reina's gaze flicks to her brother, James, and she asks if he thinks the same. James shrugs, a little uncertain, admitting that Nadia sometimes looks like a little girl, especially when she eats so freely and innocently. Reina, ever the playful sister, can't resist a small joke. She teases Nadia about not having a fiancé and concludes, half seriously, that she will probably marry a beast someday, causing Nadia to flush slightly in embarrassment. Nadia wakes up suddenly, realizing it was all a dream. She had dozed off earlier while waiting for Luke, and now the morning sunlight filters gently into her room. She stretches lightly, thinking about the strange yet vivid dream she just had. Meanwhile, Luke recalls the moment he complimented her on how she looked, and how she laughed and thanked him, calling it an empty compliment. Now, reflecting on the incident, he realizes he had meant it genuinely. He considers asking Leonard to teach him the proper way to give compliments, wanting to get better at expressing himself. Luke notices that Nadia doesn't seem sleepy and gently asks if she wants to rest more. She shakes her head, saying that she has already slept enough and feels ready to start the day. Smiling softly, Luke decides to bring her food. He admits that listening to her earlier made him feel a bit hungry himself. As they sit together, Nadia begins sharing more details about her dream, talking about some childhood friends from the capital. She admits she didn't have very many friends, but the ones she had were close companions she had known since early childhood. She hesitantly asks if Luke knows the children of Viscount Million. Luke, observing her, finds it curious that none of her old friends had attended the wedding. Curiosity sparks in Nadia again, and she asks if he likes desserts. At first he says he doesn't, but after a thoughtful pause, he decides to like them from now on and even exaggerates a little, saying he likes them very much. Encouraged, Nadia asks if she can go to the kitchen and make some herself. The idea fills her with delight. Baking and preparing desserts has always been a hobby she loves. Luke assures her that she doesn't need permission and tells the kitchen staff to allow her to do whatever she wants. Watching her, he wonders if she minds gaining a little weight from enjoying the treats, noticing how small, lively, and happy she looks. He can't help but recall the moment when they kissed, the softness of her lips and the warmth of her presence, which makes him exclaim quietly to himself. He apologizes softly, realizing he had been a little sleepy and acted on instinct. As Nadia prepares the desserts, Luke guesses she must have been busy all day and is likely tired. Yet he can't help keeping her awake. She offers a small excuse for lingering, and then, almost shyly, requests that they go to bed together. Luke feels a flutter of unease but cannot bring himself to decline her request. He calms himself, recalling his earlier words that it would be fine if they only kissed for the rest of their lives, and he pushes that thought aside. Soon, Nadia asks if she's being bothersome, and Luke reassures her that she is not. She is buoyant and full of life. Hearing this warms her heart, making her feel that he genuinely means it. Luke notices she is wearing only a simple piece of silk and struggles to keep his composure, not wanting to act shamelessly. Meanwhile, Nadia feels a strange emptiness in her chest and wonders if it's because she is experiencing the reality of having a partner for the first time. She recalls her childhood ideas about marriage, that couples should share a room and hug each other while sleeping. Her siblings and master had told her she would understand these things in time, and her friends never explained marital life clearly. Now faced with these new feelings, she realizes she must learn and understand for herself. Meanwhile, in the Staten Mansion conference room, Anna, the housekeeper, is informed that the items she ordered have arrived. She asks the servant if it's the correct size, and the servant confirms. When the suggestion comes up to show it to the Duchess, Anna shakes her head firmly. The decision has already been made at a prior meeting, so there is no way to let Nadia know about it yet. After a while of sleeping, Nadia feels the warmth of something pressing against her. The surface is soft yet firm, comforting in a way that makes her stir awake. Slowly, she opens her eyes and sees Luke lying beside her. Startled, she lets out a surprised yell. Luke immediately apologizes, explaining that he didn't mean to scare her. Nadia shakes her head quickly, clarifying that it isn't her face that startled her. Instead, she wonders if he has been watching her while she slept. Embarrassment creeps over her as she admits she has some bad habits in her sleep, and she carefully asks to confirm that she didn't accidentally hit him. Luke reassures her with a calm smile, saying that he slept well despite everything. Nadia frowns slightly, her thoughts racing. She worries that he might be late for work because of her, even though he insists everything is fine. She can't help but think that it must have been difficult for him to lie next to her all night, trapped by proximity and her warmth. As he sits on the bed, rubbing his eyes, he expresses tiredness. Nadia immediately moves closer, her hand brushing his arm, and asks if he's truly okay. She apologizes for any discomfort she may have caused. Luke insists that he is fine and that she doesn't need to worry, He admits the reason he hadn't slept was that he was trying to avoid touching her too much, not out of annoyance but out of consideration. Reluctantly, he says he has to leave and mentions that breakfast together won't be possible. Nadia nods, allowing him to go, and reminds him not to worry about her. She calls after him, telling him to eat and to keep his spirits up throughout the day. Luke, touched, tells her to rest and promises that they will see each other again that evening. Later, in his office, Luke reflects on the night. He recalls how he couldn't close his eyes all night, particularly when Nadia had come close. The memory of her kiss lingers, and though it isn't their first, the thought still brings him happiness. He reminds himself that everything is fine, as long as she is content. The barriers between them have started to fall, and their closeness is growing, so he wants to avoid doing anything that might push her away or make her wary of him. Yet he can't ignore how seductive she is. Last night he had tried to resist, pulling her slightly away, wondering if he would have to live with this constant struggle forever. He decides he needs to talk to Jade about it, to find guidance on how to handle his feelings. Meanwhile, in her room, Nadia finishes her meal while a servant clears the table. She thanks the young woman, who introduces herself as Anna. Anna then informs Nadia that both the butler and the commander of the knights wish to visit her later today. Nadia recalls the commander's appearance the last time she saw him, which had been a little intimidating, but she quickly reminds herself not to judge someone based on looks alone, understanding that a person who seems stern or scary can also be very kind. She decides to accept the visit, but first wants to stop by the kitchen. Curious about the time, she asks Anna, who points to the clock above the fireplace. Nadia hadn't noticed it before. Moving closer, she examines the clock and notices a delicate drawing. 2 people kissing. She gasps softly in surprise. Anna, observing her reaction, wonders if Nadia hasn't seen the watch before and admits that she can't explain it all by herself. Nadia suggests going outside for some fresh air, and Anna offers to accompany her, saying she also wants to show her a new piece of art that just arrived. They enter the room where the artwork is displayed. Nadia's eyes widen in surprise as she takes in the sculpture. Anna explains that it is modeled after the protagonist of a famous novel, and playfully asks if Nadia would like to give the figure some rope, which would allow it to move. Intrigued, Nadia takes the rope and watches in amazement as the statue responds. Anna explains that she commissioned the piece because it is highly popular and represents an important aspect of Staten state culture. Feeling slightly dizzy from the sudden excitement, Nadia admits that the sculptures and the clock are a lot to take in. She notes something strange. The face on the male figure reminds her of Luke, while the female figure seems eerily like herself. Anna suggests that Nadia focus on something else for a while, recognizing that she is overwhelmed. Gently, she reminds Nadia of her plan to visit the kitchen, encouraging her to calm down as she prepares dessert. In the kitchen, Nadia begins to make the treats, though her thoughts keep drifting back to Luke. She feels a strange restlessness, realizing that she can't stop thinking about him. The clock, the sculpture, and even the movement of the figures continue to play in her mind, making her heart flutter. She wonders if the creators had placed Luke's face on the male figure intentionally. She finds herself imagining the kissing scene over and over, and a small curious excitement fills her. Deep down, she can't help but question if it would feel as thrilling if Luke kissed her in the same way. Her maid walks into her room carrying the dishes she requested. She informs Nadia that everything has been brought and offers to set them aside, but Nadia waves them off, saying she will get them herself. She notes to herself that she's just picking up what she dropped earlier. The maids glance at her curiously and ask if she hasn't calmed down yet, mentioning that they saw her stumble and fall earlier. Nadia shakes her head lightly, brushing off their concern, but their next words catch her attention. They mention that the sculpture titled The Life of the Countess has just arrived. Her heart skips a little. She remembers that title well. It was the book her sister, Elia, used to read every day. She recalls telling her sister that she wanted to read it too, but her sister had said she would have to wait until she was older. Curious, she asks the maids if they like the book so much. One of them smiles and replies that she owns 10 copies of it and notes that it's a very popular adult novel. Nadia, her curiosity piqued, requests to borrow one, but the maids hesitate, questioning what would happen if she fainted while reading it. Before they can go further, Anna enters and interrupts them, informing Nadia that the captain of the knights and the castle butler are ready to visit. She advises Nadia to prepare herself, as she will need to greet them officially, and notes that the servants should help her stand out during the visit. Nadia thinks to herself about Staten Castle, perfectly prepared before her arrival. Everything had been arranged so that the castle would not appear rustic or underwhelming in front of the new duchess from the capital. Yet she feels a little out of place. She is simple and kind, unlike the polished grandeur around her. She thanks Anna for providing her with such beautiful clothes. Anna smiles and affirms that she should wear them proudly, teasing that she'll likely need them more often now. Soon, Luke walks in. Nadia feels a wave of relief and happiness that he came despite his busy schedule. He looks at her, eyes widening slightly, and remarks that he is surprised, but then quickly admits that she looks gorgeous, so beautiful that he cannot stop looking at her. Nadia blushes, unsure what to say. He requests her hand, a small smile playing on his lips. Anna watches quietly and thinks to herself that it's nothing short of a miracle that Luke used the word beautiful for her. Nadia glances toward the hallway and notes that everyone must be waiting. She hurries to gather herself and encourages Luke to follow, though in her mind she worries about the odd way she slept last night. She doesn't mean to act distant or cold. Seeing his face simply reminds her of the clock and the statue from earlier. She had wanted to hug him when he complimented her, but the memories of past fears and confusion hold her back. She feels nervous, remembering moments like the tension on her wedding day and previous arguments with friends. Her thoughts briefly drift to her friend Reina, who had once accused her of trying to steal the spotlight on her friend's birthday by wearing the same dress. Nadia had tried to explain it was a misunderstanding, but Reina refused to listen, insisting Nadia pretended to be innocent to get attention. The memory stings slightly, but Nadia quickly pushes it aside as Luke calls her, noting that she doesn't seem well. She lies softly that she is fine, though her heart races. Luke reassures her that everyone will like her just as they like him, which gives her a small comfort. The commander of the knights, Gerinos, steps into the room. Nadia takes a deep breath, reminding herself not to be afraid, and introduces herself confidently. She notes that this isn't their first meeting but expresses that it is a pleasure to see him now. She adds her name, bowing politely. Up close, she notices how mature and handsome he seems, far different from her initial impression at a distance. Gerinos greets her warmly, introducing himself as Gary North, leader of the Black Bear Knights. Nadia responds courteously, then notices the cookies she had made earlier on the plates, clearly brought by Anna. Moments later, the castle's butler, Grant Jones, stands to introduce himself, followed by Jade, the Duke's advisor, who apologizes for the delay in formally greeting her. Gary greets everyone and suggests they begin with tea and the dessert. He questions why Anna brought the cookies, noting that none of them usually like sweets. Nadia steps forward, trying to persuade him gently, explaining that she had spent all morning baking the cookies and decorated them beautifully with cream. She questions if he would really ignore such effort. The Duke, standing nearby, shifts uncomfortably, but Nadia quickly apologizes, admitting she didn't know they disliked sweet things. Gary's surprise turns to mild panic as he realizes the cookies were prepared by the Duchess herself. He quickly recovers, lying that they were delicious but perhaps a bit too sweet for his taste. The Duke quietly warns him to not make sudden loud noises, concerned that Nadia might be startled. Luke thanks Nadia softly, noting that he appreciates her care, calling the cookies adorable. Anna affirms this, and Alan praises the shape and decoration as well. Despite the knowledge that the Duke may not favor sweets, Nadia watches as everyone enjoys the cookies she made. She feels a mix of pride and uncertainty, wondering if she should intervene. The Duke notices her hesitation and asks what's wrong, quietly blaming Gary. Gary apologizes, saying he had no intention of causing concern. Nadia finally feels a wave of relief. Though the castle is still unfamiliar, the warmth and kindness from everyone make her heart lighter. She is happy that, despite the grandeur and formality, people are genuinely welcoming. Feeling moved, Luke gently pulls her close, asking if it is difficult for her to stop crying. He suggests they move somewhere quieter for a while, giving her a moment of comfort away from the crowd. So he leads her out of the hall into a quieter space. He glances at her with concern and gently asks if she has calmed down a bit now. He reassures her not to worry about what happened during tea earlier, though Nadia still feels a lingering unease. Luke offers a soft apology, his voice sincere. Meanwhile, Nadia thinks to herself that he is incredibly sweet. She wonders why her mind keeps recalling the statue she saw earlier, imagining him as the figure in the sculpture. Without a word, Luke lifts her into his arms. Nadia instinctively murmurs his name, and he responds warmly, noting that she has done a wonderful job. He places her gently on a nearby chair, glancing around. He asks if the servants didn't prepare a gift for her, and then shares that they mentioned how surprised she looked by their sincere efforts. Nadia feels a pang of guilt for troubling him, but she thanks him sincerely. Moments later, she apologizes again, and Luke tilts his head curiously, asking why. He wonders if there's something he doesn't know. He has never had to calm a crying woman before. He's seen people cry in fear of him, but never like this. The worry in his eyes deepens as he hesitates, concerned that he might make things worse. Nadia admits quietly that she's sorry for ruining it. Feeling bad that she made the moment awkward, gathering courage, Luke decides to be brave this time. He wraps her in a comforting hug, murmuring that she is charming and that everything is fine. As he steps back slightly, realizing they are too close, he mentions that he has a gift for her, though he is uncertain if she will like it. Nadia shakes her head, smiling, and assures him that it's impossible for her not to like a gift from him. He questions lightly what would happen if she didn't, but she insists that anything from him will always be good. Luke decides to go change into something more comfortable, and Nadia agrees. He suggests they should head back for now, noting that if they stay this close, he might kiss her without even realizing it. Later in the day, Nadia sits quietly, reflecting. Her maid asks if she managed to rest well. She nods and apologizes for making everyone uncomfortable, though they quickly assure her she didn't. They ask if she likes the people who assist the Duke. Nadia responds warmly that they seem genuinely kind and sweet. She turns to Anna and expresses a desire to learn more about Staten, knowing she must live there for the rest of her life. She feels it would be difficult to adjust if she doesn't understand the people and the place, and she wants to help Luke and others as best she can. Anna smiles, agreeing that it's a wise decision, and hands Nadia the gift she has prepared. Nadia opens it to find the book The Life of the Countess. Her eyes light up as she flips through the pages, a genuine smile spreading across her face. The joy is interrupted by a knock, and Luke's voice asks if he may come in. She nods, and he enters, noting that he wanted to escort her personally. He compliments her, saying the riding clothes look perfect on her, and expresses his gratitude that Anna has a good eye for such things. Luke reveals that the maids told him about her love for horseback riding. She confirms, adding that she practiced it frequently when in the capital and has always loved riding. He gestures toward a beautiful horse waiting nearby. Nadia's eyes widen in disbelief. It's for her. Luke explains that it is the gift he wanted to give her, thoughtfully remembering her interests. She beams with gratitude. Jade, standing nearby, reassures her that the horse is well-trained and friendly. Luke asks why she isn't strolling with him, but Jade interrupts, suggesting they ride together as husband and wife. Luke hesitates, but she insists he cannot let his wife go alone. Shortly, they are both mounted on the horse, riding together. Luke checks if she feels comfortable, mentioning that he has heard that some in the capital use birds for transport. Nadia shakes her head and laughs lightly, explaining that riding this way feels easier and more freeing. She recalls occasions in the capital when she couldn't ride because others considered it dangerous and her parents discouraged it. Riding now fulfills a long-held dream. She thanks him repeatedly, but he gently insists that she need not thank him. Luke's tone softens as he brings up a more serious matter. He wants to apologize. Nadia asks why, curious. He admits that she was brought to Staten Castle under circumstances she did not choose, leaving her family and friends behind. She responds gently, noting that she married him, yet he quickly clarifies that the marriage itself was not entirely her decision. He confesses that he fell in love with her at first sight, which is why he proposed, and never considered using his status or family name to coerce her. He hadn't realized the pressure it would put on her. Nadia's gaze lingers on him, her eyes searching. She quietly questions if he truly loves her and whether they had met before, the questions revealing her mix of curiosity, doubt, and hope. The Duke remains silent, unwilling to voice the truth, even if it costs him dearly. Finally, he simply states that it isn't important and offers a sincere apology for forcing Nadia into the marriage. Nadia hesitates, then admits that she was frightened and overwhelmed at first. The castle is vast, unfamiliar, and daunting, and she had no idea what kind of man Luke truly was. On top of that, she fell ill soon after arriving, feverish and alone, with no one to turn to. She cried often, she confesses quietly, though she now realizes he had been right there beside her the entire time. Luke listens carefully, his expression softening. He assures her that it is only natural for a husband to worry about his wife, especially one who is new to such a life. Nadia's lips curve into a small smile as she admits that she felt immense relief upon discovering his presence, grateful that he did not abandon her in her fear. Though the process was frightening, she now feels a growing happiness, a sense of luck that she has someone as kind and gentle as him. She reflects silently, never imagining that the Duke, this man who had appeared so mysterious and untouchable, would be capable of such sweetness. Her thoughts drift back to the abrupt marriage proposal she had received. The Duke had been called a beast, and at the time, it had felt no different from being sold. She had pleaded silently for mercy, terrified of strangers, unsure of what her future would hold. Her fear had driven her to keep her distance from Luke, yet in reality he had proven to be a good and considerate person. The reason he proposed to her, she now understands, is because he truly fell in love with her. Gradually, she feels her own heart opening, the first hints of affection and admiration for him blooming inside her. Luke glances at the clock and remarks that it is getting late, suggesting they return to the castle. Dinner will soon begin, and the others will be waiting. As they walk back, he contemplates the subtle complications of their closeness. If she approaches him freely, he has no reason to resist her, yet he fears that lingering touches might betray his desire, revealing more than he intends. He silently curses Jade for her unhelpful comments earlier. Arriving at the mansion, Luke pushes the door open with force, startling Jade. He questions her sharply, asking if she wishes to speak, though his tone carries both irritation and fatigue. Jade urges him to calm down. He snaps back, rhetorically asking if the Duke intends to hurt someone merely because they played a prank. He wonders aloud if it was supposed to be a casual interaction, not a serious one. The Duke, already exhausted, waves his hand and states firmly that it is enough. He is too drained to sustain anger, though he mentions that he has successfully apologized to Nadia, and she even complimented the farm, calling it beautiful. Jade frowns, questioning why he seems so troubled. Luke explains that the real problem is Nadia herself. She thinks he is a good person. He emphasizes her innocence, the pure, kind eyes that looked at him without blame. Despite everything, he admits to himself and to Jade that he has had dark thoughts about her, thoughts he cannot allow to continue unchecked. He instructs Jade to hand him the letter cutter so he can remove potential distractions, though Jade protests that he cannot. Luke insists, but acknowledges that Nadia would not want him to get hurt, so he must find another solution. He ultimately decides to begin some outdoor training, reasoning that exercise will clear his mind and strengthen his body, preparing him to protect her and face challenges without faltering. The upcoming journey to the mountains will be long and arduous, yet he resolves that for Nadia's sake, he can endure anything. Meanwhile, Nadia sits in her bedroom, joyfully opening the book she has long admired, The Life of the Countess. Though her passions lean more toward horseback riding and baking, she has always admired her older sister's love of reading and secretly hoped to enjoy it herself. Memories of babysitting her nieces and nephews while her sister read drift through her mind, adding a warm, nostalgic touch to the quiet evening. Inspired, she decides to write a letter to her family, eager to share her experiences and the fact that Luke is unexpectedly kind and considerate. As she delves into the book, Nadia notices the content is unexpectedly complex and unusual. Lost in her reading, she barely registers the arrival of her maids, who enter to help her prepare for bed. They notice that she looks faint and slightly disoriented. Nadia reassures them, sitting up immediately, explaining that she only felt a brief dizziness. Her thoughts wander, questioning quietly whether this is what they mean by an adult novel. She considers the intimate details in the story, wondering if couples truly lie in bed together, holding one another. She hesitates, thinking about Luke, what he might consider proper, what he might think of such closeness. Curious and a little shy, she asks her maids for advice. What would they think if their husbands were pure and kind, as Luke is? The maids acknowledge that such feelings and expectations vary from person to person. Nadia's cheeks flush as she realizes her own ignorance, silently acknowledging how long she has waited without understanding these matters. Windy, one of the maids, reassures her, explaining that consideration for another person can guide intimacy, that physical contact isn't always necessary, yet one can approach more proactively if both feel comfortable. Nadia reflects on her own situation. According to the book, she and Luke are not yet truly a couple in the traditional sense, but she wants to take a small step. It is not unlike a goodnight kiss from a parent or a family member, yet she wonders what it would feel like to receive a tender, intentional kiss from Luke, similar to the moments described in the book. She imagines his reaction, their mutual feelings, and whether such an action would make them both feel closer and more content. Determined, she decides to ask her maids for guidance, hoping to understand how she and her husband can navigate intimacy. She wants to know in detail how to approach him first, how to make that delicate move without seeming awkward. Her two maids, ever observant, assure her that her dress is perfect, that it has been carefully prepared for a romantic evening. They whisper with a mix of mischief and sincerity that the Duke will be thrilled to see her like this, perhaps so delighted that he might destroy the manner in his excitement. Nadia thinks to herself that, even though it's late, her maids went out of their way to help her. Despite the slight embarrassment, she feels grateful for their guidance. They advise her to sit elegantly, wait patiently for Luke, and when he arrives, to kiss him immediately. They assure her that his grace will be captivated by seeing his wife so attentively dressed, her care and thoughtfulness evident in every detail. Nadia swallows nervously, imagining Luke's reaction. She smooths her dress and sits on the edge of the bed, heart fluttering, anticipating the possibility of their first real kiss. Thoughts race through her mind. How should she pose? Should she lean slightly forward, or wait until he makes the move? Despite the tension, she resolves that this time, she will approach him first. But the morning comes and she wakes to stiff arms and an empty room. Confusion mixes with disappointment. She wonders where Luke is and whether he left quietly after stopping by her bedroom in the night. She steps out and greets Anna, hoping for some clarity. She questions anxiously if his grace has been here. Anna explains gently that Luke had left for mountain training during the night. Nadia is stunned. She recalls the stories she had heard in the capital. The House of Staten's mountain training is notoriously rigorous, so intense that some rookies never return. Her mind races with worry. She cannot believe he left for such dangerous training without even saying a word to her. Anna notices her concern and reassures her, explaining that the rumors have been greatly exaggerated. While difficult, the training is not as deadly as the capital gossip suggests. Nadia asks for confirmation, needing to hear it from Anna herself. Anna nods firmly, adding that the Duke will be back no later than the day after tomorrow. Nadia breathes a quiet sigh of relief. Perhaps it is for the better. She can use this time to prepare everything so that when Luke returns he will be surprised and pleased. 3 days pass and still there is no word from the Duke. Each evening, Nadia dresses carefully, practices her poise, and imagines the moment when she will finally see him again. She remembers how, during their last horseback riding session, Luke had ended it hurriedly, and she wonders quietly if she had done something wrong, if she had somehow displeased him. She presses her hands to the window, staring out at the distant mountains, admitting to herself that she misses him terribly. Suddenly, she notices movement. The knights are returning earlier than she expected. Heart racing, she hurries down the hall, eager to find out what has happened. Jade, noticing her rush, calls out for her to slow down, warning her not to trip. Nadia barely registers, greeting him breathlessly and immediately asking about Luke. Jade frowns, his expression serious, and instructs her to put on a jacket first. It is then that she notices she had run out in her pajamas, caught up in her excitement. Embarrassed but grateful, she thanks him. Jade hesitates before speaking, his eyes darkening slightly. The murmurs of the other knights reach her ears. They are the only ones who have returned from the training. Nadia's heart skips a beat, fear replacing excitement. Her mind races as she wonders what happened and where Luke is. Jade finally explains that the knights had decided to return just 2 days into the training. On their way back, the Duke notes that it bothers him to have left Nadia all alone. Soon they encounter a problem along the way. News arrives that a rookie who joined them this year has missed his footing, and the rain is so heavy that the other knights are struggling as well. The Duke rushes to help them without a moment's hesitation, and he manages to save everyone. But as he pulls up the last knight, he loses his footing and falls from the cliff. Jade tells Nadia not to worry too much. He is certain the Duke is safe. He knows the training grounds better than anyone, and the rain is finally letting up. Everyone is shaken by the events, but Nadia forces herself to stay strong. She asks about the Duke's rescue, and Jade assures her that a team will be assembled immediately. They had returned because the situation had been dire. Nadia wants to join the rescue team, but doubts herself, thinking she would only get in the way. She remembers her brother saying she can be childish at times and should leave serious tasks to him and their sister, Ilya. Shaking off the thought, she turns to Jade and pleads for him to find Duke Staten. He promises that they will bring the Duke back no matter what, even if it costs their lives. Her maids notice she has been staring out the window all day and can see the worry etched on her face. They wonder if they should reassure her, hinting that the Duke would be fine even if he fell from a cliff and that everyone's panic was partly due to the tense mood. Footsteps draw Nadia's attention, and she turns to see Cindy and Windy. They notice her troubled expression and ask if she's all right. She admits that she wants to help search for the Duke, but she feels pathetic, knowing she would likely only hinder the efforts. They argue otherwise, pointing out that she is a skilled horseback rider and could genuinely assist. They add that if the Duke is gravely injured, seeing her would give him more strength than anything else. Nadia realizes that just as she worries about him, he must worry about her too. She thinks to herself that Luke is someone who would do anything for her, and if he is waiting, she wants to do something for him in return. Determined, she follows Cindy and Windy outside to tell Jade that she wants to join the search. She explains that her horse knows the estate well, and since Luke raised it, it might be able to find him. Jade declines at first, warning that it would be too dangerous. The maids ask for a moment alone with him, noting that Jade does not seem overly worried. The Duke had fallen into a ravine before and returned unscathed, and he even once fought a wolf and won. They argue that the Duke might already be close to the manor and that if the Duke and Duchess find him together, it would be a tearful reunion. They quietly add that the Duchess has been preparing for this moment with the Duke every night, learning how to help him. Meanwhile, Nadia insists she's going back inside, but Jade stops her, admitting he hadn't fully thought things through. He finally agrees that her gifted horse could truly be useful, and seeing her concern for the Duke is genuinely touching. Certain that she will be safe with them, he requests that she joins the search party. Jade informs Gary that the Duchess is joining them in the search. He frowns and warns that the forest is too dangerous for a noble woman, that it isn't a place for someone like her. Jade shakes his head firmly. There's no stopping her now, she's already preparing. And as long as they keep a careful eye on her, it shouldn't be a problem. The knight mutters that it's easier said than done, but they have no choice. If she's joining, they must accept it. They can pretend to search for the Duke, but today, they will truly save him. Jade turns to Nadia. He explains that they will take the most discreet path possible. The Black Bear Knights will cover other regions, and Nadia asks if that's because the people of the estate might recognize them. Jade nods. They can't let anyone realize the Duke is missing. Currently, the House of Staten has no heir and no relatives. If word spread that the Duke had an accident, it could throw the land into chaos. Gary reassures her that she needn't strain herself. They are responsible for the Duke's safety, so she may return to the castle if she wishes. But Nadia shakes her head, insisting she will help find her husband as much as she can. Jade feels a pang of surprise. She called him her husband. He never would have imagined such words a month ago. Now he wonders if the Duchess truly cares for the Duke as much as she seems to. As they move forward, Nadia's horse suddenly halts. Curious, she peers ahead and sees a small button lying on the ground. Her heart skips. How could a trace of him be so close by? Jade notes that the training ground isn't far, and normally the Duke would have made his way back by now, but the heavy rain may have blurred his vision and led him astray. Jade suggests they push deeper into the forest rather than returning to the castle. Gary hesitates. They've already gone too far and are approaching the edge of the duchy. They might even run into remnants of Eames at this rate. Jade shakes his head. That's all the more reason to continue. The Duke may be in far greater danger than they anticipated. Gary admits he is worried too, but insists that this isn't a place to venture alone. They should go back and return with backup. Jade nods, telling Nadia that Gary is right. He will contact the nearest order of knights. Suddenly, figures appear hiding behind the trees. Nadia freezes, a strange unease creeping over her. Jade notices her hesitation and asks if something is wrong. She whispers that she feels people nearby. Before she can react, an arrow whizzes through the air toward them. Jade moves instinctively, shielding her as he shouts that this area was abandoned long ago. Gary screams for everyone to protect the Duchess. They are under attack from what remains of Eames. They are surrounded. Jade can hardly believe it. The remnants of Eames have come all this way. One of the attackers sneers that the knights may put up a bigger fight than they expected. Their leader barks orders. Every knight from Staten is their enemy, but they should leave the woman alive and eliminate the two men. The attackers charge. Gary and Jade defend Nadia while she stands frozen in the middle of the chaos, trying to comprehend what is happening. She remembers hearing that Eames was a house that no longer exists. Yet here they are. In the confusion, her horse panics and bolts. Nadia screams, realizing she cannot control it. Jade yells after her, warning that heading deeper into the forest is dangerous, but the horse refuses to obey. The rain pelts down, soaking her to the bone, and she can hardly see through the sheets of water. Eventually, the horse slows and stops. Nadia pants heavily, her heart hammering. She looks around, unsure whether to return to Jade and Gary or search for the Duke on her own. Her chest tightens with frustration. She feels useless, incapable of helping. She wipes away her tears and decides she must find a place to stay for the night. Perhaps a small cave, somewhere hidden. As she scans the area, she notices a faint light flickering within a rocky hollow. It doesn't resemble the ruffian's base, but she approaches cautiously. Step by careful step, she moves inside. Her heart skips again, pounding violently in her chest. And then she sees him. Luke lies there, his body marked with bloodstains, barely conscious but alive. The day the Duke goes missing in the North Forest of Staten, Jade questions the situation urgently. A knight reports that they were able to rescue the men thanks to the Duke, but one rookie is still in danger. The Duke stretches his hand to Lawrence, urging him to climb quickly and not let go. He focuses entirely on saving the young knight, using all his strength and skill. After what feels like an eternity, he finally manages to pull Lawrence to safety. But as he attempts to climb the last few feet himself, a loose rock gives way beneath him, and he crashes down, the impact jolting every bone in his body. Despite the pain, the Duke feels a small sense of relief. At least the rookie is safe. But the rain continues to pour without mercy, and he realizes he could easily get lost in these woods. More than that, he worries about Nadia left alone back at the castle. The thought of her being frightened because of him gnaws at his heart. He resolves to return before she even realizes what has happened. The forest should be easy to navigate. He spent countless hours here as a child. If he can recall the paths his grandfather once showed him, he might reach the castle by morning. He imagines Nadia's relief and the faint praise she would surely give him for saving a life, but a shadow of doubt crosses his mind. His grandfather never taught him the exact path to take. The rain hasn't let up for days, and the muddy ground makes every step treacherous. He can almost hear Nadia's worried voice in his mind, and the guilt eats at him. He thinks of her alone while he wanders aimlessly, and he feels utterly pathetic for making her feel lonely once again. Lost in his thoughts, he doesn't notice the soft footsteps until a gentle touch brushes his arm. His eyes snap open, and there she is, Nadia. Relief and disbelief wash over him simultaneously. He whispers her name, his voice breaking, and notes that she must have been terrified when he disappeared without a word. He pulls her into a tight embrace, holding her as if he might never let go. Tears streak down her cheeks as she murmurs that she missed him too. The Duke blinks, questioning if this is reality or a dream. She confirms, trembling, that it's real. She explains that she came all this way to find him, unable to sit idly by when she heard he was stranded. He is momentarily shocked. He recalls that he ordered Jade and Gary to protect her, and yet somehow, she is in this dangerous situation. She admits that she asked to join them, and adds that Jade and Gary are currently in danger, ambushed by strange men. The Duke's brow furrows. Could the remnants of the House of Eames be responsible? He reassures her not to worry. Jade and Gary are excellent knights of Staten. They will find them once dawn breaks. For now, she should rest. She hesitates, asking if she can remove her soaked riding clothes. They're uncomfortable and clinging. He nods, telling her to make herself comfortable. She thanks him and carefully strips off her wet garments. Luke notices, with a rush of concern and something deeper, that her inner clothing must be soaked as well. He feels overwhelmed, the worry twisting through him. She shivers slightly in the cold, and he suggests chopping more wood to warm the room. She glances at the pile nearby, noting there's plenty, and then moves towards him. "Since we've been apart for so long," she whispers, "I just want to be close to you." She leans into him, asking how he feels and urging him to tell her immediately if anything hurts. He reassures her, insisting that the scratches are minor and that he is fine. Her eyes scan him, noticing he is soaked, and she worries aloud about him catching a cold. He removes his jacket, revealing the scrapes across his arms and shoulders. Blood matted into his hair and soaked his clothes. Alarm flashes in her eyes. "What do we do?" she asks urgently. He waves her concern away, explaining that it's merely a scratch from saving the rookie, nothing more, and it will heal quickly. In his mind, it's good fortune. He saved a life, but she cannot see it that way. Her tears fall freely. He sighs softly, apologizing. He has never been used to anyone worrying about him. Raised by his grandfather, known as a beast from a young age, he never imagined someone could care so deeply for him. She leans against him, her voice trembling. She is proud that he saved someone, yet she cannot praise him for it because the fear she felt is real and raw. He hugs her tighter, promising never to let her worry again, vowing always to prioritize his safety and well-being, no matter where he is. She presses closer, whispering that she cannot help but worry because he is not a beast, but her dear husband. She kisses him softly, and he is utterly overwhelmed. Her warmth, her care, her presence, it all hits him at once. She murmurs a final plea, "Make sure to treat your wounds immediately." He hesitates, admitting that there's no medicine or bandages. She frowns but quickly tears a piece of her cloth, determined to prevent the injury from worsening. Nadia tells him not to worry, she will take care of his injuries. The Duke covers his eyes, insisting that he's fine and she doesn't need to go to such lengths. She responds calmly that she has already ripped her garment. Slowly, he opens his eyes and notices she has another layer underneath. She confirms it was Anna's suggestion. Wear more layers when riding a horse for long stretches. The Duke thinks to himself that she is as wise as ever. She moves closer, determined to tend to his wound, but he protests. She reminds him that he is the patient, and more than that, she wants to care for her husband herself. She asks if that's all right, and he nods reluctantly. She thanks him for trusting her and assures him she will be careful, urging him to leave everything to her. He can hardly believe he's permitting her, but he can't bring himself to stop her. As she leans onto his shoulder to steady herself, he startles slightly. She questions if she touched the wound. He blushes, insisting he's fine and that he was just surprised. She apologizes softly, noting that his heartbeat grew louder as she moved closer. She couldn't help being curious. He shakes his head, telling her there's no need to apologize. His body belongs to her anyway. He thinks to himself how foolish he must appear. He hasn't seen her in so long, and yet he acts like a child in front of her. Nadia laughs and he quickly asks if he said something wrong. She shakes her head, explaining that she simply feels more relaxed now that she's with him. Her voice grows quiet as she confesses how frightening her journey had been, how she nearly gave up multiple times. The bandits who pursued her were terrifying, especially since she had never seen such criminals before. The Duke's brow furrows. Bandits had long been rooted out. The only ones who could trespass on the estate of the beastly Duke were likely remnants of the House of Eames. He explains that they were once a ducal family who rebelled against the Empire, now wiped out, their name forbidden, but he can never forget them. They were responsible for his parents' deaths. Nadia's eyes widen. She asks if that happened when he was young. He nods, admitting it's a grim story. She insists on hearing more, curious about his childhood and whether he grew up at the estate. He begins quietly, his voice steady but heavy with memory. He was born in the capital, living there with his parents until he was 6. Then the House of Eames stirred chaos in the Empire, devastating the nearby state and estate. His father, returning to the troops, acted swiftly, quelling the rebellion. But just when it seemed safe, his mother was kidnapped by the remnants of Eames, cornered and desperate. The knights warned that it was too dangerous to act immediately. Imperial reinforcements were on the way, but his father would not wait. He had no choice but to save her himself, knowing that any delay would be fatal. He pauses, his voice heavy with the memory. His parents died trying to protect each other, and his grandfather took him in afterward. He admits, a little embarrassed, that he never imagined his grandfather would pass away too. Nadia is already crying. He moves to console her as she questions how he can recount such tragedy so calmly, especially at 6 years old. He tells her it happened long ago. She doesn't need to cry over it, but she wishes she could hug the young Luke who lost his parents. Without hesitation, she pulls him close, whispering that if she could have done that, she wouldn't have taken him for granted. She calls it a terrible tragedy, and he quietly admits that he used to hate being pitied. But if it comes from her, he would welcome it, even acting like a child in her presence. He confesses he doesn't know how to act around her. He's always careful not to scare her, yet he feels foolish in front of her. He can hardly believe someone as kind and beautiful as she is by his side. Ever since meeting her, life has felt like a dream. Without warning, he leans in and kisses her. She gasps, murmuring his name, about to speak. But he turns his face away and apologizes. He admits the reason he left for training earlier was his own fault. His inappropriate thoughts around her had been growing, and he had needed to clear his mind. He recalls their wedding night, when he had scared her into fainting, and admits he has been holding himself back ever since, ashamed and fearful of frightening her again. Nadia smiles softly, telling him he doesn't need to hold back. She confesses that she too has been waiting for him every night. This time, she thought she would make the first move, which is why their earlier kiss felt too brief. She leans closer, a mischievous glint in her eyes, suggesting they try something new, something more daring. If you've enjoyed this so far, please comment below for part 2. Bye now.